Hello, welcome to today's video on prompting. In this module, we will learn about a framework for prompting AI chatbots and AI tools. What is prompting or prompt engineering? In this example that I have here up on the screen, there is a scene in the second episode of a show called Star Trek Discovery. And in that scene, Michael Burnham has to talk to the computer to get it to let her out of the brig or she's going to die. This is an example of knowing what you need uh, to know in order to argue with a computer and prompt the computer to let you basically live. Um, so part of what is involved in this involves understanding the structure of the computer, understanding how computers work, but also understanding their own Starfleet regulations and being able to logically argue with something that is not human. And so for prompt engineering, there are a couple of different ways of defining it, but it all basically comes down to being an iterative process to anything relating to a generative AI prompt, which can improve its accuracy and effectiveness. This is also a technique that AI engineers use when refining large language models with specific or recommended prompts. And this is important for AI engineers to be able to create better services like chatbots that can handle complex tasks like customer service or generate legal contracts. So an example for here would be in order to create better services with a chatbot, we know based on several studies that the more a chatbot looks, or the more a chatbot acts like a human or talks like a human, the more likely it is to be trusted. And so this is important so people can trust those chatbots. Making sure that generative AI services like ChatGPT are better able to deliver outputs requires engineers building code and training AI on extensive and accurate data. And so how can we do that? So we're going to talk about the elements of a good prompt, which is part of the CLEAR framework from Dr. Leo Lowe. And I have linked in this module's resources, a video, and some other resources that we here in the libraries have used. And so CLEAR is an acronym. It stands for concise, logical, explicit, adaptive, and reflective. As a librarian, I will also point out that these can also help you when you are using the library databases. So the first one here is talking about being concise. So we want to use clear, simple language. We want to prioritize the critical information, and be succinct in what we are doing, and remove any irrelevant detail. So a good prompt here would be to list the benefits of a gluten-free diet. We want these things to be logical, so structure the information in order of importance and establish context and relationships. There should be a logical flow to the sentence structure. So the example here would be start by giving a history of the gluten-free diet, then tell me about current medical recommendations. Hopefully this prompt would give a nice logical explanation of what I'm asking for. I should be explicit in my instructions and format. I should specify length, sources, and other terms to be used. I may want to set the tone and reading level restrictions, and hopefully also provide some examples. So this is a real world example that I did last year, where I talked about asking the generative AI model Gemini to help me create a rubric for evaluating generative AI tools from a librarian's perspective. While I did find this rubric kind of helpful, it's also very explicit and specific in what I need. I was very clear on the first thing I needed, which was a rubric. I needed to evaluate generative AI tools, and I put in the perspective, so from a librarian's perspective. I want to be adaptive. If it doesn't work, try again. You need to be flexible and be able to rephrase and restructure. You need to adjust settings and parameters and try different approaches. And again, this also happens in library databases. I also need to be reflective. I need to carefully evaluate these AI responses, notice places where maybe those AI responses have been biased, identify any areas for improvement, and then use those insights to further refine these strategies for engagement. So here are some other examples for text models like ChatGPT or image models like DALL-E. These examples may help us decide whether or not we want to use a model, whether or not a model is helpful, and it really just sort of depends upon what you need that model for. If you're using something like ChatGPT to help you create a professional summary for marketing analysis, this happens a lot, and it may need to, be trimmed down to less than 60 words or rewritten with a less formal tone, depending upon what it is you need. Image models also can be very specific. So you can have a painting of a cat. There can be many different ways that we have paintings of cats. And then I might want it chasing a mouse in an impressionistic style, but then I want it sad, or I can make it sadder. And so these image models are also really interesting. And perhaps in a future module, we'll talk about those. But this concludes the clear model for this particular topic.